Morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our last show and tell of this phase of work. It's been a hell of a 5 months. I've gone from working at work to working from home, and now living at work. But in that time, despite all the upheaval, the team have managed to deliver some pretty amazing work, particularly relevant now, or following the white paper that came out last week. So as before, please post any questions to the link on screen, which I also shared in the invitation. On the next slide, please, Claudia. Yeah, so please share any questions or post any questions to that link, and we'll cover them off at the end. Why are we here? So over on the next slide, please. Thank you. Back in 2018, I applied to the first round of the Digital Fund from MHCLG to look at the possibility of disrupting what is a limited market in terms of back office systems. And here we are, 3 phases later. So show and tells are meant to be just a quick update, but also a formal governance for the last or previous 2 weeks of work that the team's done. So to that end, in the last sprint, we have done this. So we've created 3 prototypes for full householder, given the feedback we've received in previous phases. We've shipped a number of stories, as you can see on screen. But given that this is our final one for a while, just a quick rundown of what we've achieved in this phase. As you can see there, we are designing and developing a system designed around the users. So to that end, we've conducted 39 testing sessions with across 10 different councils, but we've also delivered an MVP, so a minimal viable product for processing householder permitted development applications. But we've also moved on now to the additional functionality required for full householder applications. All of this is based on receiving valid applications from our partner project, RIPA, Reducing Invalid Planning Applications. But we've also, as I say, scale features for full householder applications, together with building an API for at the other end of the system for public view, as well as integrating with Notify. Oh, me as well. So as I say, the first 2/3 of this phase of work were focused on developing a service for processing householder permitted development, which we've delivered, and we've got a product ready to go into private beta with a small number of local authorities, and we're just waiting for some final integrations with that partner project, RIPA. Those features include a data-driven process, so no more paper, integration with gov.notify for consultations, and as it says on the tin, notifying people of the work or their application. We've embedded a document management system, an API, as I said, at the other end to enable planning registers, and we've built all of this on scalable architecture within Amazon Web Services. Enough for me. So if we will show you the service. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. So I'm going to share my screen now. Just bear with me a moment. Okay, so you should now be seeing what this first screen that an officer sees when they first log in. Can somebody just confirm that you can see that okay?
We can see it.
Great, thank you, Claudia. It's always worth checking before I launch into it. So I'm logged in as a planning officer at the moment, and I've got 4 applications that need to be assessed. So if I go into the first one, what I will do is, this is kind of the overview that I see. So I can open this section here, application information. I can see the address and the ward. It's a residential building. It's for a certificate of lawfulness, and they want to install a new external insulated render. And case officer is Susanna West. I'm pretending to be Susanna. And I can also have a quick look at the constraints. So it appears to be in a conservation area. But permitted development rights have not been removed, so that's fine. And I can have a quick look at application dates as well, and contact information. So I've got my agent and the applicant's address down there, and also all of the proposal documents that were submitted as well. So I'll come back to that in just a moment. I'm going to go into the first step, which is down here, to assess the proposal. So I get a quick overview on this screen, and this is based on taking kind of data from RIPA, which is another MHCLG funded project, and it will actually show more data in here. So this is just sample data for the time being, but it would show, for example, if the applicant said that they are building an extension, and it might ask them, is it over 4 meters, yes or no? And it would show their answer to that. However, as an officer, I obviously kind of look at the application, but still want to check the drawings to make sure that that's correct. So I've got the proposal down here, kind of an overview, and that would basically show anything that the applicant has provided as part of their application. But I will go and have a look at proposal documents. So I think what I'll do is I'll manage documents. I can see them all here. And I'm just going to take a look at this first one. Okay, there it is. I'm going to measure it. Now, obviously, I'm not a planning officer, and I don't know what I'm really doing here, but I'm just pretending that I'm measuring it. And that looks okay to me. I'm sure it's more than a couple of inches, really. And then I will go back to my assessment. And I would do the same with all of the drawings as well. So I can click in each one. I can open it up in whatever viewer I use. So I'm just using Adobe Acrobat at the moment. But say, for example, I notice that one document isn't quite right. I can remove that document. So let's say this one. I'm going to say it's not right because I've noticed there's a problem with it, and I've contacted the agent or the applicant, and I've asked them to send in a new drawing. So I'm just going to remove that. Yep. And then you'll see that's down here. So there's quite a few down here because I deleted some other ones earlier just to test. But that is down there. And if I click on these, I can still access it if I need it. However, the reason I deleted that is because my applicant emailed me and sent in another drawing instead with a revision. So I'm just going to upload that now. And I can't quite remember what it is, but let's say it's a front elevation proposed. So there it is. Yes, I will upload this file. And there it is, there's a new file that I've uploaded. And obviously, we know that sometimes officers will have quite a lot of kind of back and forth and conversation with agents and applicants. And this will allow them to kind of remove documents or add any new ones at any time that they want to before they make their recommendation and submit it to their manager. So I'm just going to go back to my application now. I'm going to assume I've looked at all of the drawings, I've measured them, I've deleted a couple and added some revised drawings. And then based on that, I think that it meets the requirements in terms of permitted development policy for a certificate of lawfulness. So I'm going to say yes. Now, we've added this kind of section here because we know sometimes managers want a bit of extra information from officers. This isn't universal across all councils, so it's up to the officer here. But in my case, just to demonstrate, I'm going to add something. I'm just going to say, I've checked drawings and the measurements are fine. And then we'll save that. Now I need to attach the drawing numbers. So let me just quickly open this. You can see the drawing number is in the bottom there. But just for quickness, I'm literally just going to put 1, 2, 3, just going to put some random numbers in each one. And this is just so I can demonstrate to you what will be on the next page. So now I've completed both steps, but I still need to actually submit the recommendation to my manager so that they can review it. And here I get an overview. So again, I've still got all the application information at the top, the constraints, the drawings, so I can check those at any time. I can also go back and make changes, but I'm just going to have a look through, and I can see that, yes, I said it should be granted. My recommendation was based on these drawings here, and I was happy with those. Those are the numbers that I just entered. And now I'm going to submit it to my manager to check. So that's been submitted to my manager. So what I'm going to do is log out and log in as a manager. Okay, so as a manager, I've just got the one application at the moment. I'm going to have a look through it. I can see everything again, just like the officer could. I've got constraints, documents along the side, key application dates down the bottom, contact information. And there's no consultation information because it's permitted development and it's not required for a certificate of lawfulness. But in future, if we build something for full applications, that's the kind of area where we would start to pull through some of the consultation information. And I'm going to review the recommendation. So I can see that my officer has recommended that this should be granted. They've left this comment for me. I can also see the information that the applicant provided as part of their application. And as I said before, this is just sample data, so it's likely to have kind of richer data in here. But I can see that if I want to, I can also, if I, for example, don't trust this officer, I might want to open some of these drawings and measure them myself. And I'm just going to imagine that I did open one drawing and I noticed that actually the officer had missed something. So I'm going to say, no, I don't agree. And I'm just going to say the side section is 0.2 meters beyond what is allowed, for example. And I'm going to save that now. Get back to home. I'm going to log out. Log back in as the officer, just bear with me. And I can see that this has come back to me. So manager has requested corrections on one application. So I'll go into the corrections requested tab. I'll have a look. Okay, so I can see everything again, just like before, but I need to reassess the proposal this time. Okay, so the size section is 0.2 meters beyond what is allowed. Okay. So as an officer, I suppose I would check the drawings again, or depending on what comments my manager added. And based on this, I'm going to assume that my manager spotted something that I didn't. So I'm going to change my recommendation and just enter some text in here that I've prepared from earlier. So just bear with me a second. So this is kind of some text that I use to just describe what the problem is. And this will appear on a decision notice that the applicant will receive. And then I'm going to save that. I don't need to attach drawing numbers because I did that before and I haven't had any new drawings since then. I'm going to resubmit it. I'm just going to check. So yep, it's refused. The reason I entered just now is here. And this is important because this is also what basically the same kind of text and content that the applicant will receive, telling them what the decision is. All my drawing numbers are down here. The rest looks fine. All of the kind of standard text that has to be on there about who to contact, etc. And I'm going to submit it to my manager again. Now I'm going to log out and I'm going to log in as a manager, obviously in real life. If you're a manager, you would only log into your manager screen. And I've been alerted, look, one of the applications that I previously sent back for corrections has come back and I now need to determine it again. So because I just have one in the list at the moment, it's this one. I can review the recommendation just like I could before. and here it is. It tells me what the officer wrote. And this is important because sometimes a manager might want to send it back to the officer, not just because they disagree with the recommendation, but sometimes it's because they disagree with the reason. But I'm going to look at that and think as a manager, yeah, that sounds about right. I can also see kind of the original comment I sent, and the officer didn't add anything else to it. So if I really wanted to, I could go and measure the drawings again. But I'm going to trust them this time. They've checked it and they've refused it. So I'm going to say, yes, I agree. Now I'm going to publish the recommendation. Again, I get a preview before it goes, so it's refused. These are my drawing numbers. This, again, is the reason. That all looks fine. So I'm going to determine the application. And if I go back home, I can see in my determine tab, this is the one that I finished. A planning officer can also see this as well. And this is useful because sometimes an applicant will ring up and they will want you know, to know what's happened because they might not have received the email or the letter yet. So an officer will be able to go into this tab as well and see that it's been determined. And then I now hopefully, okay, so here's the email that came through. So this is me as the applicant now, or the agent. And I've received this kind of notification, and it's got all of the same text that I showed you before. So it tells me that it was refused. I've got my application number, an overview of the application, the date that the decision was made. And I can also see what the problem was as well. And then obviously as an applicant, I can choose to submit another application, or I might want to appeal it. But that's kind of the whole process in terms of how an officer receives an application, assesses it, sends it to the manager, and then a manager might send it back. And then eventually a decision is submitted and it's sent to the applicant. So I think that concludes the demo, and I will hand over to Claudia.
Thanks, Claudia. Yeah, so this slide is just to communicate the API that we built for the BoPS service. So if we go and visit that link, you'll see that's obviously a totally different URL to the demo which Michelle was just doing. And as you might see, that is the representation of the application that had just been determined and published. So this is an open API that's available for other services to consume.
Thanks, Neil. So now I'm going to walk you through how we got to this final MVP. So throughout the process, we were doing iterative design and research, and then those designs were then developed by our dev team. So during this process, we made coded prototypes, and they were tested 39 times across 10 local authorities. So a big thank you to everyone who helped us out. When we were doing this testing, it was a mixture of the junior and more experienced planning officers within planning teams, and we also tested with planning managers as well. We also did some research sessions with ICT specialists to ensure that what we were building was mapping well with their systems. And we also did a few with enforcement specialists as well, as the conditions were quite important with that for a full householder. What I'm going to show you is like how we use the research. So this is the most iterated page. I went through all the revisions that we made, and this is the one that we had to keep coming back to. And it was a mix of like making it work for our users. So taking what they're saying, finding what those insights are, and changing the prototype to match what they needed, as well as understanding when it needed to be changed for other reasons. So version 4 was testing really well. And then afterwards, we found more representative data of what we would get from RIPA. And so then we had to change the prototype to match the data we were getting. And then we did more iterations upon that, and we made it better as well. But with the time we had to scale it back a bit. So version 7 is quite advanced, and it's taking all the data to its full capacity. But with the time we had and the needs the user had, we knew a simplified version would still meet those needs. So we're launching a more simple version, but we also will really value getting people using it more, because doing a test with sample applications is quite different than them actually being on their own and using it. So we're hoping to find out more feedback and then see how the assessment can be iterated upon. But these few screens are just to show you how we use the user research to our full needs and to iterate upon it over time. What else we've been working on is the full householder application. So we did a few rounds of testing, and right now we have 3 prototypes with different various ideas of how we could use data. And now I've mapped out one of the user flows and tried to figure out like what our next steps will be and where our priorities will lie. And so we kind of know the holes and gaps we need to fill in by more rapid prototyping and iterating and testing, and versus other features that are more or less ready to build. So now I'm going to hand it back to Jack, who will talk more about the next steps.
Thank you. So yeah, next steps for this are obviously to publish and share our outcomes from this. So that includes an overview report, but also a strategic and economic business case for the work we've done, but also the work that we plan to do. And then the next piece of work we plan to do is scale this up to full householder and minor developments. And that means obviously we need to start designing and building elements for consultation, site visits, conditions, mapping and GIS, obviously, and further integration with the Ripper project, which pushes valid applications to BoPS, our system, and further building out our API to publish all the planning app data and information that we hold. And then as I mentioned earlier on at the start, the obviously not stop there, and we'll look to scale on up to major development next year. Martin, I think it's over to you to say all the thank yous.
Yeah, just yes. So I've been involved in the project from the first discovery. I've gradually kind of faded away a bit as the team's grown and other people have been involved. But I just wanted to acknowledge a few people, given this is the last show and tell. So first of all, I guess MHCLG, who have funded the project, we're really grateful. I'm going to hand over to Ewan and Eglay from MHCLG in a moment just to say a few words. But we really appreciate the support that you've offered us. It's been a very positive experience, so thank you for that. I'd like to say thank you to the Connected Places Catapult, who were very supportive, particularly in the early days, and gave us a really good insight into the planning landscape and the different projects that were going on. That was really helpful. I'd also like to say thank you to Southwark Council, I guess, for actually making this possible, and giving us Jack, of course, who has led the project with such good humour and passion. Thanks, Jack. I think that we've got a number of partners, and we've had a number of partners in different councils throughout the project. And we really appreciate the support that we've had on that, and the access particularly that we've had to planning officers for our research and user testing. Obviously, it's really difficult to practice user-centered design without access to those people. And I'd like to acknowledge the help of the Ripper team. So Open Systems Lab, particularly again, early stages of the project, were very helpful. It's given us insight into how planning policy worked and the complexities of that. And obviously now, I don't think at that stage we expected our two projects to become so intertwined, but we're looking forward to working with them on that in the future, and of course Lambeth on that project. Most of all, I'd like to acknowledge the work of the team, the Unbox team and Jack. As you all know, this project kicked off the week before lockdown happened. And although we've all been very comfortable working remotely in the past, we do a lot of remote work, but this has really forced the issue. So managing to maintain the high levels of user testing and research that we have, and still managing to work in the open and do these regular show and tells. We had some real problems at the start when everyone was struggling, but we've persevered, and the team's shown a great deal of resilience to get through it and produce such good work. Finally, on the subject of show and tells, these show and tells have been about the best attended ever. I think we have about 50 odd people watching on YouTube now, and that really matters to us. It's really important that people show an interest, ask questions, give us feedback, and generally support the project. So if you have any questions now, the link is there. There's some to answer, I can see. If you could post your questions now, but I'd like to hand over to Egle, I think, first of all, from MHCLG.
Thanks, Martin. Hi, everyone. I'm Egle. I'm a collaboration manager. And as Jack was speaking, I was just reflecting back to when this project was first funded. And exactly a year ago, actually, we opened up the second round of funding of the Local Digital Fund, and it was August 2019. And this back office planning system project, it got funded to do an alpha. And following a successful alpha, they secured further funding to do this stage of the project, actually beta, the stage that we wrapped up today. And it's honestly, it's incredible to see of how much this project achieved in less than a year. And I think, as Martin mentioned, not even COVID-19 or lockdown or even the changing landscape of how we work and deliver services got in the way of this project progressing and just pushing ahead. And also, yes, this project truly is an exemplar in how to run an agile project. As Martin said, work in the open, how to work collaboratively with other organizations and build something that meets user needs, which is key in everything that we're trying to do, all the projects that we fund at Ministry of Housing. And I will also echo Martin. I would like to say a big thank you to Jack for your great leadership in driving this project forward. Once again, to the council for supporting Jack and the team in this, and to everyone, all the partner organizations and councils, for your hard work and dedication to making BoPS happen. Just to wrap up, I wanted to say that we are immensely proud of everyone that took part in building BoPS, and we do hope that we can further support your efforts in enabling councils to start using the system in the future. So from all of us at the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, thank you. And also, some of you may know, we recently published a white paper called Planning for the Future, and I'll now hand off to Ewan to say a few more words on how this project reflects our vision for a planning back office system of the future.
Thanks, Egle. Yes, so I think most people who are involved in planning will have come across the white paper that we published last week, and if anyone who's read it or might have read summaries about it will have seen that the digital is fundamental to the transformation of the planning system, as the white paper kind of proposes, in terms of both kind of helping making the planning system more certain for kind of the development industry, particularly kind of small and medium developers, making it easier for communities to get involved, and also kind of making it easier for local planners to be able to kind of spend the kind of time on things that matter, and less on kind of slightly kind of laborious and manual kind of tasks that quite often planners spend a lot of time doing. And I think this project has been kind of instrumental in helping us test some of these ideas, and it's helped kind of inform our thinking on a lot of this. And it's taken us to a stage now where we're pretty confident of what a digital planning system can actually do. And whilst this project itself, kind of as everyone who's seen the show and tell, is a part data, part document project, it helps us start thinking about what does a truly data-driven planning system actually look like. What are the benefits to planners, to developers, to communities? etc. And setting the groundwork for a lot more to do, because with the white paper out now, and there's going to be a period of consultation, but once that's done, we're going to be in full swing in terms of doing more of this type of work, helping prioritize the planning data that we have to standardize nationally. Think about the layers around kind of legislation and guidance that we have to produce. And in a true digital kind of fashion, the iterative nature of this kind of remains kind of critical to it. So we have to try things, and BoPS has been a great example of how we try things, how we learn from it, how we improve them, and how we feed that back in to think about kind of wholesale transformation of the system. So I guess from me as well, kind of thank you very much kind of for the whole team. But do remember, this is only the beginning of what's probably going to be a kind of a 2 to 5 year journey in the digitization of the wider system.
Thanks. I think we're going to hand over to Tom now, who's going to help us with the questions. We've got quite a few that have come through.
Yeah, I'll just whiz through them, and I'm sure we'll have answers between us for all of them. So first one was whether the private beta will be using live data certificate of lawfulness applications. The answer to that is yes, it will be. So the way we've been working currently is with the assumption that another funded project, RIPA, with reducing valid planning applications, will kind of be the resident facing side of the equation. So I think we'll come through there and then present live data into the back office system for the councils involved in private beta. So the next question then leads on from that is how long until RIPA can provide data for the private beta testing? I'm not sure what the timescales are around that. Does anybody else know currently?
Yeah, they're working on it at the moment. So as soon as that's ready, we'll be able to go live into private beta.
Cool. Do we know timescales around that? Is it like a month, 2 months?
We're hoping a month.
Okay, cool. Then next question is whether the system allows more than one of the same kind of drawing to be uploaded. Anybody? I think the answer to that is yes. I just can't remember how we decided to handle replacements coming through.
No, well, right now it's one drawing and one tagging system. We have a future iteration when we do full planning that will scale up to multiple drawings. But yeah, that's like another step in our process. Okay,
so currently to upload a second drawing of the same type, you need to archive the first one.
No, you can still so you upload one drawing at a time, but you can upload the same drawing again if you need to for whatever reason, and you can also archive it. So in answer to that question, yes. So when I demoed it, you just press upload, select whichever drawing you want, and then upload it. And if you upload a drawing that already exists and you need to upload it again, we've not heard a need for that, but you can do it if you need to.
Cool. Okay. And then related to that is if the drawing type you want to upload isn't listed, can they add new types, or does that need to be added by us?
So I think when drawings are coming through from RIPA, they will be named by the applicant, because obviously every architect and agent have their own referencing convention. But when it comes through to us, we will be able to tag it with exactly what's in that within that drawing.
But I think it's also the tags that you saw in the demo are the ones that we have in our system at the moment. And when we put this into private beta, something I guess that we want to test you know, we need to see it in action, is what other tags people would need. So we've put the kind of the most, I guess, the simplest, the basic ones in there at the moment, but we're aware that there might need to be additional tags that are added in the future as well. And we are looking for feedback from the first council or couple of councils on what those tags should be.
Okay. Then there's a few around data security. So is BoPS secure in terms of hacking? We had a penetration test run on BoPS recently by a company called JumpSec, and they gave us pretty much a clean bill of health with a few minor things that we had to resolve and have been resolved. And we'll be getting retested on this like periodically as we kind of add more features. The data is stored on UK data center of AWS, so that will be kind of for GDPR purposes, that kind of stuff remain in the UK. In terms of who manages the data, so from a GDPR point of view, the data owner will always be the local authority. BoPS would be a processor of that. And there's also a question about encryption, which I'm not sure. Neil, do we encrypt the data? Because I know that a lot of it is made available through the API anyway.
Yeah, obviously we selectively expose data that is fit for publication, and we do encrypt the planning application data. Just a couple of notes to add on top of the security question as well is that we run various kind of automated tools on the code base to prevent kind of inadvertent security issues. And we also have an automated process that makes it very easy for us to keep all of the frameworks and languages that we use up to date to the very latest version.
Sorry, I've got an articulated lorry reversing outside my window, so it's any background noise, that's why. With regards to how the decision notice is sent to the applicant, that is done using GovUK Notify. So each council would sign up for an account with that, and we've got an API integration with Notify, send it through. They don't currently get a PDF, they just get the email. I don't think the requirement to send a PDF came up in our testing. I'm not sure, Claudia, if you've got any more details around that.
No, you're right. Yeah, by email was fine from what we had in testing.
Okay. And we've got, who would you expect to update the changes in legislation so that they appear as reasons, and how easy would this be? I think this is mainly handled by RIPA, but we just need to kind of like mirror what they do. But I think most of the heavy lifting is done on that side. Is that correct?
Yeah, just to add to that, so any all policy questions and changes to policy, particularly relevant, potentially with changes from the white paper, that will be handled by our partner project RIPA, and that's written in such a way that local councils can, if they want to and have the resources and skills to update it themselves, can. But national legislation will be automatically updated.
Okay. There's one around who will provide support to officers for private beta testing. So there will be kind of an onboarding like process that will be run by us at Unboxed with officers at the various councils, just to show them around and get them to help them understand how to use it, and then we'll be available for any like kind of support questions during the beta. With regards to whether we can receive data from planning portal, for private beta, we can't. So one of the issues with planning portal currently is it doesn't kind of filter applications anyway. It takes the application and gives it to the council, and so because of that, a lot of invalid applications come through. Hence the like the RIPA project. So we've been working on the assumption that in the brave new world of planning, where we do kind of everything like as well as we can, a lot of this information will be filtered out. So we've been working on the assumption that the people in private beta will have RIPA in front of BoPS. We're also aware, however, that the vast majority of local authorities use planning portal to receive planning applications. So there will be some work done to make BoPS like to work with planning portal, but it's not in there currently. Question about long-term vision for BoPS. Like Ewan, I think, touched this previously when he was speaking, but I guess we're trying to move towards a data-driven planning system. There's loads of opportunities in planning about how planning could be made better. I think one of the things that always holds that back is the actual system used to manage applications within local authorities is really, really tricky. It's hard to integrate with. The vendors are sometimes quite responsive to the requirements of councils. And so I think really what we need to do with BoPS is kind of create something that can just work as glue. BoPS doesn't need to solve every single problem in the planning system, but it needs to provide a platform that other problems can be solved on top of it. So I guess that's where we're going in the long term. I don't know if anybody'd like to add anything to that.
No, that essentially covers it.
Cool. Next question to Egle and Ewan is, will MHCLG commit to funding the next stage of development? I assume it actually comes from somebody outside the project team and it wasn't us.
I mean, it's a very good question, and we're currently waiting for the project to produce the outputs that we're committed to at the beginning of the project, and we are fully behind the project. That's what I can say at this point in time. We are looking to support it, and there is an ongoing conversation with the project on how can we support it moving into private beta and putting it live to the council. So obviously until we receive the outputs and finalize some plans and future funding models, we can't say that we're committing it on the spot, but we are definitely looking to support the project going forward.
Cool. I'll take that as a yes.
Okay.
Yeah, then similarly, has funding for private beta testing be secured? I think, yeah, same answer, really. And one asking, have we or do we intend to codify every parameter in legislation given planning application volumes? So this is being handled by RIPA more than it is by us. They've done permitted development. They haven't worked through the rest of it yet. The reason they started with permitted development is it is national legislation, whereas when you get into full householder and like minor and major developments, there's a lot of variance between planning authorities. I guess a lot of that's going to change depending on reforms made talked about in the white paper. So yeah, currently we've done it for permitted development, but not for the rest, but we do intend to, is the idea.
Can I just add something there, Tom?
Yep.
Yes, I think it's just worth saying a little bit about, with relation to the planning portal piece and RIPA and the codifying legislation. So essentially, RIPA is the smart stuff that looks at information provided and compares it to policy and starts the process and start to inform the decision making. So what's most likely to happen in future, I think, is that if stuff's coming through planning portal, it might go through RIPA to make sure it's valid in that kind of automated sense. And what we provide is a view on that for the planning officers to actually check and validate, and not validate, but to check and make sure that they're happy that this that everything's in order. So all the policy side of it and the smart logic stuff sits in the tool that's designed to validate applications, and our system is provided to give a really good workflow for planning officers to be able to check that and make sure they're comfortable with the applications coming through.
Okay. We've got, can the uploaded drawings easily be shared with the public to view for comments? So we have an API that exposes lots of this kind of data for consultation. What we haven't done yet is developed a consultation module. That's what we'll be looking at further when we start looking at larger development types. And then a question about who owns the product. Does the IP sit with MHCLG or Southwark? I'm not sure.
It sits with the council.
Okay.
With Southwark.
Yeah, but the product itself is open source. So I think in the previous slide, there was a link to the GitHub repository. So yeah, the IP sits somewhere. So is it not in there? Okay, we can add a link to the GitHub repo when we publish the slides afterwards. So all the code is available there, and the IP is with Southwark.
It is worth saying that we're talking about what's the best way to make this sustainable going forward. It's not going to end up owned by a private company. We're talking about the potential of having it owned by a community interest company, which is a kind of social enterprise. So it will have the opportunity to generate revenue and be self-sustaining, but won't just be kind of turned out into the commercial sector. So that's something that we're working on at the moment, and it will be ongoing as to how we manage ownership of the product and licensing and things like that.
And then how's the planning register updated? So we've got an API which exposes the data that would go into the planning register. So it'd be then for the planning register to kind of connect to that to surface the information. Then what's we got? So there's a comment saying applicants are likely to want PDFs as decision notice, mainly for conveyance purposes. Like possibly, I mean, I don't, without wanting to come across being like really flippant, like an email can be printed to PDF. I don't think they necessarily need us to send through like a specific certificate. But obviously it's something we'll look at more in private beta.
Sorry, Tom, I was just going to say, just to add to that, I think lots of people have a folder with marked house stuff in their wardrobe. But yeah, as Tom was saying, the email can be printed off, but also all of that information will be held on the planning register in the same way as it is at the moment. But we are also looking at being able to integrate with other applications and tools which have like a household passport, for example. So householders will be able to keep all of the information on, say, planning and building control, etc., within an online tool. But as Tom was saying, you can of course just print the email. There's nothing different on the email as would be on the planning register.
Cool. Then final question is, can Southwark Council monetize their IP? In theory, yes. And this was something that kind of did the rounds in local government, I think about 10 years ago, where people had the idea that they could all build software and sell software to each other. In practice, although they could, it's actually like really, really hard, and it isn't really worth it, because the actual hassle involved in sales operation to sell software to other councils versus the amount of councils that typically needed it then led to people wasting a lot of effort doing things that weren't actually building software. And so kind of, although yeah, theoretically like councils can do it, I think in practice it's never really worked out as being a practical thing to do, and that isn't the plan around this. As Martin was saying, we're looking to try and put this into a community interest company, and so get to a position whereby any money being paid in terms of licenses and hosting and support can kind of feed back into the product and enable us to keep developing new features and ensuring it doesn't stagnate.
I just wanted to add, following on from that and Martin's point earlier on about it being maintained and run by a community interest company, anything like that would have a code of ethics and conduct, and one of those would be that it can't be used for private financial gain or sold off to commercial markets. So there would be a contract around that kind of thing.
Cool. And then one more saying planning register uses uniform DMS. Will BoPS update to this, or will uniform have to draw down the decisions? So it'd be more uniform would have to draw down. So BoPS would provide the information via the API, and then some work would need to be done within uniform to kind of update itself by pulling in the BoPS data.
I think that's up for grabs really. We haven't really we've done the simplest thing that we can do at the moment in our MVP, which is to make the data available. So it would be most flexible for however it's displayed and made public. But I think one of an important point to make, and to the point about the applicants wanting PDFs as well, is this project has been very, very much focused on the key users who are planning officers, and we've by design really not really done any research with applicants or the public in terms of what the current planning register is, or what applicants expect. But there are other projects lined up and actually in progress to look at that, which we will take that research and we'll develop the system over time to support whatever's found in terms of what's required for it. I think there's a very practical question now about councils who want to start using it, and Uniform or Northgate already having planning register tools, but we'll be as adaptable as possible and make sure we integrate over time as the needs emerge.
Cool. Right.
We should probably wrap up.
Yeah, it's 10 to 12. That is it for questions. So, yeah, I think we are done. Unless anybody would like to add any final words.
No, I just wanted to say that obviously we're not going to stop here, and pending funding decisions from MHCLG, we are hoping to be back in later in September to continue this work. And all of the links there are on screen. We've got our own website, BoPS, BoPS.digital, and everything's on there. But